Hello, and welcome to 10,000 Stitches Podcast, a weekly chit chat all about the joys of sock knitting. My name is Andy, and thanks for joining me today. Um, let's see. If you wanted to find me on the interwebs, there's the YouTube channel 10,000 Stitches Podcast. I can be found on most social media as Purlbug, Purlbug. I have my blog at thepurlbug.com, and there is a Ravelry group, the 10,000 Stitches Podcast group. Let's see, if you are looking for notes to anything that I reference in this episode, those can be found different places depending on where you're watching this. So if you are watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description box below to the specific blog post that goes with this episode, and everything relevant that I mentioned will be linked underneath the video in that post. If you are watching this on the blog, then what I said just applies. And if you are watching this on Ravelry, everything relevant will be linked below the video in the post for the thread as well. Yeah, I mentioned last week that I have a new camera set up and everything, so I'm still getting used to that. Right now my computer is right here, just out of frame, sitting in front of me, so that way, like, if I need to like check something, I'm not like looking off to the side or something, but in a way, like, it's almost more distracting because now, like, seeing myself move is even more like in my field of vision, but I can't be looking. It's weird. Anyway, I'm still figuring it out, and I had someone mention that they missed my background that I had been using, and I'm wondering if I can show you guys this without having it be too obvious just how messy we are, because right now our apartment is just like a disaster because of like building the new computer and everything, which is up and running, and I'll talk about that at the end in the chit chat stuff. But it's kind of a disaster right now. So like this is like the one like nice clean background I can get, but let's see if I can go ahead and move the camera and kind of show you guys. So this, obviously, right behind here, this is my bed, which when it's nicely made, it makes for a relatively okay backdrop, and then we have this nice blank wall behind us, which needs some art, but we'll get to that. And then I'm wondering if I can, without being too like jerky about this, so if I swing the camera around, that right there is the wall that I normally, let's see, so that wall right there is the wall that I normally record with as my backdrop. So I'm just rotated 90 degrees basically, and that's just so that I can get the window light straight on. But yeah, so yeah, that's where I am. Oh, and I guess now I have a little bit of that in the shot, so we'll go with it. I like it. I'm not gonna keep fussing with the camera. So yeah, so that's the technical part of this. What else? Okay, so kind of the outline for today will be kind of the standard thing. We'll talk a little bit about finished objects, works in progress, projects that are upcoming. We'll talk a little bit about the knit along, both the wrap up of the old one and the start of the new one. And I want to talk a little bit today about fiber festivals that I might be going to this year, because I just realized that one of them is now like on the not so distant horizon. And then we'll do question of the week, and then we'll do chit chat at the end. So yeah, finished objects. I don't have any. Wah wah. I had meant to have my projects done. Oh, for the sake of posterity, I'm recording this on Sunday, March 6th, and it will be posted on Tuesday, March 8th. And I'm recording at about 10 o'clock in the morning because, like, as I've mentioned before, I'm doing some tutoring right now on Sunday afternoons, which means that I can't record in the afternoon, so it's about 10 a.m. right now. And I meant to have these socks finished, but yesterday getting the computer put together kind of took more time than I thought it was going to, and like just other things that were going on took more time than I thought they were going to, so I didn't get as much time to knit yesterday. So anyway, so I don't have a finished object, but I do have a work in progress that I will show you that will be a finished object probably by the end of the day today. And I realized I didn't show this last week, but this, how cute is this little project bag? Oh, and I totally forgot to deal with the autofocus thing. I will deal with that when I pause this, like in between segments, because I realized last week that the autofocus on the camera, like, it tries to autofocus too hard. So I will deal with that, so that should only be a problem for the next few minutes. Anyway, How cute is this project bag? This was sent to me by Miss Knits, and I don't know that she has like a shop or anything where she sells these, but like if you want to make money on these, girl, you totally could. But it's this project bag that she saw and thought of me, and I wonder why. If you're new, I also write on the blog about fountain pens and such, so this was perfect. And I love it, and it's so much fun. And it's really interesting because, like, I tend to use pretty unconventional project bags, so, like, this is, like, my first, like, kind of, like, conventional project bag, and it's, like, more of, like, the stiffer sort of interfacing in it. And I like it. I like it a lot. And it's a good size to have, like, socks and stuff, and because it's nice and squishy, I can just throw it in my bag, and it doesn't... Like, it fits into weird crevices better than my other ones do. So I really love it, and thank you so much. Anyway, so what was in here was my zigzagular socks. And I'm actually going to go ahead and quickly pause and reset the camera. And I'm not going to say I'll be right back because that drives me nuts because, like, of course I'll be right back. But anyway, transition. That's better. So now I have the autofocus on the camera turned off so that now I can control how it focuses on things. Anyway, so my work in progress is my zigzagular socks. And of course they don't look quite as nice if they're not like actually being kind of stretched out. But this is what they look like, and let's get that. Oh, well that actually, let's see. This is the technical difficulty part. So let's see if I can get that. Oh, no. There we go. So that's what it looks like. And the yarn that I am using is, let's refocus. The yarn that I'm using is Opal Schaftpatte 5, I think. My German's a little rusty. Anyway, it is in the colorway Emily. And it looks like this. And I really like it. What I've realized is that this zigzagular pattern, I think, is a really good pattern for like these sort of self-stripy, is it jacquard is what it's kind of called, where like it'll do like stripes and like little speckles and stuff. I think this is a great pattern for these kinds of yarns. Like a lot of like the Opal and Regias tend to be like this. And like, unless you're doing vanilla socks, it's kind of like, well, what do I do with it? You know, like, they're kind of similar to variegated yarns where it's like, it's hard to find like a good pattern that will work with it. But I think that this really works because it lets you really show off, the yarn itself. Like, it really shows off the yarn, but it's just that little bit of interesting on the side that keeps you from going bonkers while you're knitting it and just adds a little bit of visual interest to it. I had someone ask in the chatter thread for this Cables Knit Along, like good patterns for self-striping yarns, and she mentioned that she was doing the zigzagulars because that would have been my first suggestion. But other ones, like I think like Little Cable Knee High, Socks on a Plane, those really simple patterns where it's like maybe just one cable, I think work really well for like self-striping yarns and self-patterning yarns because it lets the yarn shine through because it's mostly a vanilla sock, but you just have that little bit of interest in there. So let's see. These are a 64 stitch sock made on US size 1s, which are 2.25 millimeter needles. These are made for myself, although they are a little bit tight. I really haven't figured out like that magic sort of thing because like US size 1s is a step down from what I had made a bunch of socks on. And so I'm still working on figuring out like the best stitch count for like my foot because like I want a 64, but like a 72, I don't know. We'll see. Speaking of, what am I wearing today? I am wearing a pair of socks that I made a while ago out of Patton's Croy in the cameo colors. And these actually are the ones that have the little, let's see, like the little cable knee-high cable on the back of them. So I thought it was especially appropriate. And the only thing, like I followed the pattern for these pretty closely. I didn't do as much ribbing as the pattern calls for. And I didn't do the heel the same way because I was interested in trying a heel with a garter stitch edging on it. And I like it. It made it a lot easier to pick up the heel stitches. So I might do that from now on like all my heel flaps because it was just so much easier. So yeah, so this one obviously is the finished one. And then this one I have, I think 1.5 pattern repeats left to go and then the toes. So like I said, I think that's about 50 rows or so. So I probably will finish this today or tomorrow morning. and have that done. So I wanted to get it done. Like had I had more time to knit yesterday, I probably would have finished it yesterday, but alas, that was just not to be. So whatever, that's how it works sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, let's see what's up next. Let's talk about upcoming patterns that I'm going to be knitting. Oh, and the zigzagular socks are, let me see, I'm looking on my computer right now so I can figure out who those are by. That pattern is by Susie White, and of course it will be linked in the notes along with all other patterns that I mentioned. Anyway, next up in my queue is the Little Cable Knee Highs by Pearl Soho, and I mentioned last week that I was going to be knitting these out of Patton's Croy. And I think I will be knitting these on my US size 1.5, which are 2.5 millimeter needle, which I will explain why in just a second. But these are going to be knit out of Patton's Croy Flax and Patton's Croy FX in the cameo colors. So I think I'm going to use the cameo colors for the toes and the fold over cuffs, and then I will use the flax for the rest of it. And I have decided that these are going to be for my mother, not for me, because I just don't really wear knee-high socks, and I think she will get much more use out of them. So they will probably be a like a Mother's Day gift for her. So that's going to be those. And then I'm actually going to have 2 pairs of socks going at once this next week. And that's why these are going to be knit on my size 1s. Also because these 2 colorways of Patton's Croy are like the thicker kind of Patton's Croy. I don't know. Come on. I will get better at this, I promise. So you can see, let's see, focus. There we go. These are like the thicker versions of Patton's Croy. So yeah, so these really I think will do best knit on those slightly bigger needles. And then at the same time, I'm also going to be knitting Socks on a Plane, which is a pattern by Laura Linneman. And I hadn't planned to start these till a little bit further down the road, but the way that so this week is going to be a little weird for me at work because it's spring break this week, and again, I'll talk about this more later, but because of that, I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to get as much of those little bits of time at work to knit in between things as I usually do. So rather than lugging, the socks for the knee highs back and forth, since this is going to be a lot of sock and a lot of yarn at any given time, I was just going to take a project in and leave it at my office, and just, if I get time to knit on it, great. Otherwise, I'll pick it back up later. So I'm going to start the Socks on a Plane, and those are going to be for Wesley's mother because her birthday was recently and totally missed it because Wesley totally forgot when it was, and I didn't have it in my calendar yet. So now I have it in my calendar and I won't forget it. But anyway, so these will be kind of like a late birthday, maybe early Mother's Day gift for her. And I'm going to knit these on the Knit Picks Stroll Fingering. So this is what it looks like. And this is in the Northern Lights hand painted colorway. And it's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon. Very pretty colors, variegated, which I think will work well with these Socks on a Plane. And this was gifted to me in a D-stash by a very kind viewer. Thank you very much. You know who you are. And I'm super excited to use it, and it's so soft and squishy. I'm doing a Mina yarn face. Anyway, so yeah, I'm super excited. I need to get this wound up, obviously, into a ball, which I will probably do later today. But yeah, so I don't expect to necessarily see much progress on these because I'm not entirely sure how much time I'll get to knit on them this week, but we'll see. Maybe I can make some progress. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, that's stuff that's upcoming. So I'm not entirely sure that I'll have a finished object. Well, I will. I'll have the zigzagular socks next week, but both of these pairs of socks may take a little bit longer than a week, but that's okay. We'll see. So let's talk knit along stuff. When last week's episode went live, the first knit along had ended because it was January and February. So we are now into our second knit along. And as I said I would, I drew a winner and contacted them, and the prize is already off in the mail. In between when I filmed last and now, because I just have so limited time to run those kinds of errands during the week that I wanted to get it done when I knew I could. So anyway, the winner was DJD. That's her Ravelry name, DJD. And it was post number 78 out of 91 total entries. So that was so much fun. And if I have my stuff together, I was planning on grabbing her photo of her socks that won, and they should be on the screen hopefully right now-ish. She gave me permission to show them, so hopefully you're seeing a picture of them. And yeah, that was super exciting, and 91 entries is great, and I'm hoping that maybe we can break 100 for this next one. We'll see. But anyway, so yeah, Knit Along number 2 is up and running now. So the threads are on the Ravelry group, and of course I will link those down below if you are watching this not on Ravelry. And there's been some great talk in the chatter thread, and yeah, and I don't think there's any finished objects yet as of when I'm recording, but there has been some pictures in the chatter thread of like stuff that's going on and in progress. And I'm super excited because I feel like there's like a lot more cable patterns out there, and they really can like test people and push people, but at the same time there's a lot of patterns like zigzagulars and like socks on a plane that are very simple too. So I think this is going to be great in terms of like showing like a really wide breadth of like just different sock patterns and different techniques, and I'm super excited about that. So yeah, that's Knit Along news, I guess. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about fiber festivals. So this is not something that I really would have probably ever gotten into before I like started doing this kind of thing. But like, so last year in August, I went to my first fountain pen convention that was up in DC, and that was like right after we moved here. And that was super fun. So like now I'm kind of more open to the idea of like going to these festivals and conventions and stuff. And with the fountain pen one, like the DC show is like one of the biggest in the country. So like I really just like plunged headfirst into it and, you know, went to the biggest one right at the beginning. I'm not doing that with fiber festivals. So what I have planned is I want to go to the, I think it's pronounced Powhatan, the Powhatan Festival of Fiber, which is here in Virginia. I looked it up and I think it's like an hour or so from Richmond. So it's not too far away. Definitely an easy like day trip for me and Wesley to take, because I will be dragging him out there. And so that is April 30th. So I'm really hoping that we can make it out to that. I really want to go because that would be, it'd be fun to like meet like Virginia dyers and stuff, and maybe pick up some, you know, future knit along prizes and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm really hoping to make it out to that. If anyone has been to that before, let me know what your experiences were, because I think this is like their 4th year doing it, so it's not like it's been around forever. But yeah, that would be super fun. And I know like Stitches, I think Stitches West and Stitches South or whatever, like either just happened or are happening soon or whatever. And apparently there used to be a Stitches East that just doesn't happen anymore. And I'm really sad because I would have loved to have gone to that. But the other knitting festival I have on my radar for the year, and this is really far out, is the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, which I guess is colloquially referred to as Rhinebeck because it's in Rhinebeck, New York. And I am tentatively planning on going to that in October because I told Wesley that I wanted to go to New York for my birthday this year, which is in mid-October. And it turns out that this, you know, Fiber Festival is like the weekend that I was planning on going. So it just kind of works out perfectly, and it's, you know, not very far outside of New York City, and like we could take a train out there, or I could if Wesley doesn't want to come with me. So yeah, so I'm kind of really excited about that. Like I said, it's very tentative right now because it's like I haven't really even started planning the trip other than saying I want to go, because, you know, that's a whole semester away and we don't know yet like what Wesley's class schedule is going to be like, and what his teaching load is going to be like, what my teaching load is going to be like. So it's tough, you know, to like book hotels right now when it could wind up being that we just physically can't go at that time, which would be a bummer. But I'm tentatively getting excited about that. Like I don't want to get too excited right now, but I'm excited because I want to go. So yeah, I'm super stoked about that. And then let's talk a little bit about, let's do the question of the week. And then I guess I do have like a little topic that I was planning on talking about, just 5 minutes or so, and then we'll do chit chat. So question of the week last week, I was asking about like yarn reviews, yes or no. And I got some good responses, and I think I will probably go forward with doing them. Like I said, it'll maybe only be like one a month or so. So I will try and have one up by the end of the month, and we'll see kind of how that goes. So my question of the week this week is not really yarn related at all, but we're into March now, which is crazy. So my question of the week is like, what part of spring, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, I guess it would be fall, what are you most excited about? Because I know I'm excited for spring because I'm just kind of sick of winter here. And like, don't get me wrong, like winter here is definitely milder than the winters that I'm used to, and I appreciate that. But like, it's so mild that it's really inconvenient for me here because like I have a winter coat that I really love, and I was so sad that I didn't get to wear it much this winter. But like, it's this like ski jacket that is like too warm. It was great when we were living in Wisconsin, and it was great when I was living in Nebraska because it kept me really warm. But like here, it just doesn't get cold enough to like warrant it. Like I can only wear it on days when the high is below freezing, which is not very often. Like I think I've actually worn it and needed it maybe just a handful of times, like this winter. So like but like I don't have a good jacket for like days when the high is between like 30 and like 50, because like I have a light jacket, but it's like too light. It's more of just like a windbreaker. So like dressing for like cold weather here is just super inconvenient for me. So I'm excited for it to get warm. I'm not necessarily excited for like summer heat, but I'm excited for it to get warm again so that like like 70s, like I'm excited for that. So what are you excited for? Are you just excited for the weather? Are you excited, for like things to get green again? Let me know, because I'm curious, because I'm super ready for spring. And that is all of the like knitting sort of stuff. So if that's all you're here for, thank you for watching and joining me, and I hope to see you again next week. Otherwise, let's delve into more personal things. And I would be knitting right now while I'm doing this, but because like with the zigzagulars, I actually have to like keep an eye on the pattern. I'm not gonna do that. So it's just going to be me chit-chatting with you. Anyway, the other sort of thing that I wanted to talk about before I got to chit-chat is something that may not apply to hardly anyone watching this, but, it's kind of one of those things to where, you getting to know me getting to know you, etc. So I saw a post on Mina from the Knitting Expat, her Instagram the other day, yesterday, maybe, and she was saying that due to like just unfortunate sort of like intersections of schedules, like her husband left for like business or something, and then she was going to be leaving to go home to England or something like that, and it just turned out that like they weren't going to be able to see each other again until like the 25th or something. And she was just kind of bummed out about it, and so of course I sent her digital hugs, but it made me think about like talking a little bit about kind of my experience and what I've learned being in long distance relationships, because I've done it for a little while. Granted, I'm not doing it now, obviously, but it has just kind of been a fact of my life like ever since I started dating in like late high school and stuff. So I thought I'd talk about that and just share my experience with anyone that it might benefit. So when I was in high school, I started dating, someone who's now my ex-boyfriend. I started dating a guy, and then we did not go to the same university. He went to the University of Minnesota, which is in Minneapolis, and then I went to University of Wisconsin, River Falls, which is just across the border. So like it was maybe a 30 to 45 minute drive between our two universities, depending on how bad traffic was. But it definitely meant that, because both of us lived on campus, it meant that we didn't get to see each other during the week. And so, it wasn't like long distance in that like we weren't really separated by that much, but we only got to see each other on weekends. And it wasn't necessarily every weekend either, because like for a while, neither of us had a car. So like I had to depend on getting a ride with like maybe a friend who was going into the cities, or like at the time my older brother lived in the Twin Cities as well. So sometimes like he would come over and pick me up and bring me over into Minneapolis, which was very nice of him. But yeah, so like it wasn't always guaranteed that we would get to see each other. And And it just, like, that was like a stressful time. Like, that was like a really bad, like, long distance relationship to be in. And I mean, part of that is why the relationship did not continue. But a lot of like what made that unsuccessful, even though the distance wasn't very large and like we talked to each other on the phone every day and stuff like that, was that like I just didn't have a lot of confidence in the relationship, which, you know, was for good reason because it ended. But like I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, I think, was really the biggest problem. And I think that's really what you need when you're going to be in a long distance relationship, is it's not just like about confidence in your partner, because I mean, obviously, you know, when your partner's not there, it's, you know, like we all have those like wonderings, like, oh, what are they doing right now? Like, are they being completely honest with me? And like, of course you should have confidence in them, like you should trust them completely, but like at the same time, like, you also have to like have a lot of self-confidence, and I was definitely lacking that at that point in my life because I was, you know, 19, 20 or so, and I was not the same woman that I am today. Like, I really had to grow into that. And so like I was very jealous, and I was just not a good girlfriend at the time. And so like that definitely did not make it any easier that we didn't get to see each other much, because I was just not, like, I didn't trust him enough, and I didn't trust myself enough to trust him. So it just was not good at all. Versus, so then he and I broke up, and then Wesley and I started dating. And, you know, we went to the same university in Wisconsin. And so like we were in the same place for about the first 6 months or so that we were dating, and then I went to school in Nebraska. So then I moved down to Nebraska, you know, by myself, or to live by myself. And like, you know, of course I came back up to the Twin Cities as much as I could, which worked out to be, I don't know, for a while I think I was driving up like every other month, and he was coming down on the off months. But then kind of when school started again, like he just couldn't get away from school as much as I could because Wesley was still finishing up his bachelor's, and like the life of a grad student is far more flexible than someone, you know, doing a bachelor's still. So like I think I wound up driving up every 6 weeks or so, you know, when I had breaks and when I could take like a long weekend and stuff. So I mean, it's not like we definitely didn't get to see each other nearly as much as like my past relationship. But I mean, we did talk like on FaceTime and stuff every day. And we would text back and forth and stuff. But like really what changed and made it successful was that like I had changed and I had become a more confident person and just like more self-assured. And like, I don't necessarily agree with like, some people say that like the best relationships are where you don't need the other person. And like, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. But like at the same time, like, you know, while you shouldn't have indifference to the other person, like you should be fine on your own. And like, you know, now Wesley and I are living together again. Like, so we were apart for about a year, and then he moved down there for a year and did a little bit of schooling down there for a year, and then moved away. And so then we were apart for about 6 months, and then I moved back up to Wisconsin, and now of course we're here together again. Ugh, water. And we'll be here together for a while until, like, because we're not really sure what he's going to do when he finishes up his master's here. If he's going to do something else here, maybe in a different department, or if he's going to go on to do his PhD somewhere else. But it's likely that we will be apart again then until probably after he would finish up his PhD, which is fine because, like, while I obviously like being with him and appreciate being in the same place as him, I don't need him here to be like a complete person, you know, like I am okay on my own. And I think that was really important. And obviously, like, Mina, if you're watching this, don't think this is like 100% directed at you. You just made me, like, you inspired me to think about this. But like, I think it's really important to like be okay on your own if you are going to be in a long distance relationship with someone, or if like you're going to be in sort of a thing where like you're not always like in the same geographic location. I think it's really important to like have enough confidence in yourself that you're like, okay, well, I'm fine, you know, like I can do all these things on my own. I don't need another person here. Of course, I appreciate them being here and I would like them to be here, but I don't need them here. I can get through and I'll be fine, you know, for however long that turns out to be. So yeah, that's my little thought on that. So let's do chit chat now. I think that probably wound up being longer than I intended it to be, but let's do a little bit of chit chat. So this past week was a busy week. Yeah, it was a weird week, and that made it feel especially busy. So like I said, we are building this computer, or well, it is now built. I don't know if you can hear it, and depending on how well it picks up, I may have to like adjust, like closing the door and stuff. But Wesley is currently out playing on the computer. So the computer has been built, it's up and running and working. So now we just have to like get a desk built and bring it into this room, the bedroom, because that's where we were planning on having it, not where it is currently. But anyway, so all of the parts got delivered this past week, and the company that we bought them through would not deliver them to our PO box, which was a pain in the butt. So like someone had to be here to pick them up, because as it turns out, FedEx will just leave computer parts sitting on our doorstep. Like they'll just drop them off and leave them, and it's like, are you kidding me? So on Monday, I had to come home because, of course, also the window where FedEx wants to like the window of time where they want to drop off is right when Wesley is in class on Monday and Wednesday. So, we knew that they were out for delivery, or some of the pieces were out for delivery on Monday. So like I had to come home in the middle of the day to make sure that I picked them up. So did that on Monday, and then the rest, of course, were slated for delivery on Wednesday. So I had to do that again on Wednesday. But then by Wednesday, we had all the pieces. So like that was all done and didn't have to freak out about that anymore. But yeah, then like Monday and Tuesday, I think I was just sick. I thought I was developing allergies, but I think it was just that I had a mild cold and like my nose was all stuffy and I just felt like meh, for a couple of days, which was really not a fun way to start the week, like it's like, oh great, it's Monday and I'm sick. But otherwise, what else did I do over the week? I am kind of gearing up. So right now I'm looking at like my little like planner journal type thing so I can like see what it is that I actually did. What did I do? So like I'm gearing up for this next week. Like I mentioned, this next week is spring break here at VCU. And that doesn't mean I have the week off, but it means that there are no students in this week, which is really great because it means that I can do some things that need to be done, but I can't necessarily do them when like labs are up and running. So like I've been doing things this past week to kind of like talking to people and stuff like that to like gear up for this next week so that I can get a lot done while I don't have students around. But yeah, I mean, let's see, what did I do? So otherwise, like I'll talk about spring break plans in just a sec, but we had a late start on Friday for snow, which was just like a light sprinkling of snow on the ground. To be fair, like it was predicted, like we were under a winter storm warning, but like what we actually got was really lame. So like they gave us a late start at like so like the university opened up at 11 a.m., which is like the most cruel thing to do on like the Friday before spring break, because you already had a lot of kids who just like were totally checked out for the day and stuff. And then like having the late start, it was just like, really, why are we even here? And it's, things like that are always kind of a pain for me because it screws up the lab schedule. But whatever. So we had a late start on Friday, which, was just kind of annoying. But yeah, then Friday we got started building the computer, put the processor in, like onto the motherboard. And then we went to mount the fan, the processor cooler. And it turns out it wouldn't fit on our motherboard. Like it does, like it will mount, but like the motherboard that we ordered has these like extra like shield kind of covering pieces on it. And if you know nothing about the computers, because I didn't know anything about computers, the motherboard is like the brain of your computer. So like it's what has everything attaches to it. So like the motherboard is kind of like a landing dock for everything else in your computer. So like the processor, is what like does all the thinking, but that goes into the motherboard. And then you have to have a cooler attached to the processor basically, because it gets hot because it's doing things. So we had bought this big cooling fan that's supposed to be really quiet and everything, and it like mounts such that like the fan that fits over the processor on the front like comes in, but there's also a bracket on the back that like it needs to screw into. And yeah, so the bracket wouldn't fit in like the opening. So we were really annoyed by that. So then yesterday we had to go and like get a file and like file down the edges of this bracket, and now it fits just fine. And it was a pain in general just trying to get that fan in, because it's like a really tight space and you have to like put the fan in and then like somehow like wedge your fingers in there to get these little nuts on the screws, and it was such a pain. But yeah, once that got put in, then it was pretty simple to like, well, Wesley did everything. He attached, the graphics card and all that stuff and got everything all wired up. And then we had a little bit of trouble getting like Windows to download. And I guess it's just like a thing. I don't know. Anyway, so we got Windows on it. So now it is up and running, and that's very exciting. So yeah, so then today, otherwise, like I just have to go do my tutoring stuff, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting kind of sick of. Like, I appreciate the extra money that it brings in, and like I enjoy tutoring, but it's just like having like it's not 3 hours, it's almost 4.5 hours when you factor in like all the driving time and everything. Like having that big chunk taken out of my weekend is a little bit more draining than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it would be no big deal. And it turns out that it's a bigger deal than I thought. But like, at the same time, like I know the AP test, because it's AP physics students. The AP test is at the beginning of May. So like, I don't think it will it'll be about another 2 months or so. And then I'll be done with it, I think. And after that, I definitely will be much more like eager to say no versus like saying yes all the time when they like offer me these things, because it's like I don't really enjoy doing this, and it's kind of a pain to like not have that time in my weekend. And like the extra money is nice, but like I don't need it that much, and I'd much rather have the extra time. So that's kind of a pain, but whatever. I've committed to it and I will finish it. So yeah, so that's today. And then yeah, like next week is spring break. And my plan for spring break is to go in every day and like run through all of these labs that I am kind of in charge of, and get better answer keys written up for them, because like the manual gets edited every so often, but like the answer keys, like some of the answers are just wrong, or like they just don't have questions that are now in the lab, or like questions that were in the lab didn't get taken, but that got taken out, didn't get taken out of the answer key. So I'm going to make the answer keys much more like usable to the TAs, and I have a couple of new labs that I need to test out and like make sure the procedures work for them and everything, and like just in general like write up little hints and stuff for the TAs, because I know some of the labs that I have taught, like there's no way to know how to teach it. Like, they have the instructions, but like if you're the TA teaching it and you've never saw it done before, how do you know how to do it? Like there is no like manual specifically for the TAs being like, oh, PS, this is what you do here, or, make sure that they use this mass here, not that mass, so like that's what I'm hoping to do over the next week, which requires me to like lug out every single setup for each lab and run through them all, which is why I can't do it when there are students there, because obviously they need the labs to do the other stuff. So yeah, so it's going to be a busy week, but the nice thing is, because like I don't teach this week, it means that I don't have any late nights, which should mean more time at home in the evening, which I think I definitely will enjoy. Like that whole being on campus till like 7 or 7:30 at night is kind of a bummer. So yeah, I think this will be a good week. I think it will be a very productive week. It just may not necessarily lend itself to being a productive knitting week, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, I think that's all I got for today. I should probably go get some lunch fixed for myself and get ready to go tutor. Woot. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Oh, also, I did something different with my hair today, because anyone who has short hair and has grown it out knows that like eventually you hit that phase where like it just will not do anything nice. Like it just doesn't look nice when you leave it down. But like you can't, and like you can make it look nice, but like it's a lot of work. But you don't want to cut it because you know that you need to just get through this point. So mine's in that point right now. So like I'm hoping that like kind of pulling it up into a tiny little ponytail will help. It's at least something, like it's at least like, oh, I made an effort, but it's still, I feel like it's still just not like an ideal look. But yeah, I've hit that point where it's like, and I've been at this point before. I've cut my hair short a lot of times and grown it out long, and I'm just like, I hate this. But you just have to like work through it. And I'm hoping that by the end of summer, it will be long enough that I can like French braid it, and that will make my life a whole lot easier. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go eat some lunch. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope to see you guys again next week. Bye.